I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for bullshit pay, so I can sit out here and waste my life away, drag back home and drown my troubles away. It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me, people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. All it is, living in the new world with an whole soul. These rich men north are rich.
Welcome back to the Tim and Steve Show. I am Tim Beard.
I'm Steve Morris.
How's it going, Steve?
Pretty good. How are you?
Not bad.
Thanks for asking.
You shaved.
I did.
You look so different. When I first saw you, I did like a double take. I was like, holy
Who is
cow.
that guy?
I've seen pictures of this guy before.
Yeah, every once in a while, you know, when I made a comment about something totally unrelated to my facial hair, and Nikki goes, "Oh, you're going to shave your beard off?" And I was like, "I guess so." So anyway, I guess she was tired of my beard for a while, so I took it down, and maybe I'll grow it back out. Man, I don't know.
Yeah.
Lose 20 pounds, get my chiseled jawline back. Maybe I'll keep shaving.
Harry says this is why this will never get completely shaved off because of the double chin thing there. So I was like, well, unless I get into shape, which is, you know, the goal. But yeah. So today's 9/11, 22nd anniversary of it. And it's one of those things like I remember, and I think I will for the rest of my life. And I think anyone that grew up, you know, in that area that was like old enough to vividly remember, like, I can tell you exactly where I was on 9/11, exactly how I felt on 9/11. And then after 9/11, like, seeing all the cars going by with, like, flags in there, like, the sense of pride in our country was huge. And I really wish we would get back to that point where pride in our country was huge. And it was like, it was that whole, you don't F with the United States because we'll all come together and we'll crush you. But I don't feel that inside anymore, which...
No, because they passed a law not there shortly after called the Patriot Act, which basically took away a lot of our freedom from the government. So it was used as a ploy to, like, well, it was the advantage of having this problem now was used to take away our freedoms.
Right.
Like, you can no longer, like, going to the airport's not enjoyable. I think that's on purpose.
Yeah, I hate
When I see little grandmas getting strip searched and patted down, it's almost like you guys are just jackasses.
And they
Like,
say the TSA
the fact that
misses...
you go home and sleep well at night knowing that you patted down an 82-year-old grandmother, like, you really think that's who your criminal is going to be on this plane? Anyway, that kind of stuff bothers me because that's just ridiculous. That's just a inconvenience to make it to where you don't want to fly. And unfortunately, I don't want to fly, not because of that. It's because of the way that people act, because there's like a degeneracy in our society to where, not fully, but it's annoying.
Yeah.
To people do not have the same like sense of standards and culture that like I was brought up with. And call it whatever you want, but when you're acting a certain way and it's gross, disgusting, you're taking your shoes off on a plane, like you have no respect for other people, and you want me to, oh, this is great, I like flying. Not only do I have to take off my shoes and my belt and everything else.
Remember, like, videos and stuff back when...
I just have no desire.
Like, commercial flying was a thing, right? What was it, the 40s? Nah, it might have been 30s. Commercial flying?
What do you mean commercial flying?
Like commercial flying, like before, you know, obviously the Wright brothers, you know, invented flight or whatever, and then from there developed, and like Howard Hughes had a huge amount to do with it. But when they started actually doing commercial flights...
Oh, you mean when they were being innovative?
Yes.
Everybody dressed up in their Sunday best, and everybody had some...
40s or 30s?
It lasted up until like the 60s.
But I'm just saying, like, back then you'd watch videos about
70s.
Flying, and it was like this, you know, like having dinner on a plane. That was like
Oh yeah, it was.
Future. It was just crazy.
The
And
future is here now.
yes, and you'd be like, oh, this is great and whatever. And now you look at it and you're like, you can bring a service animal because, I get nervous when I'm flying. I'm like, who the hell doesn't get nervous when they're flying? But now I can bring in, and they've had a list of things that were like, wait, you let them bring that on the plane?
Yeah,
Like,
people's coping mechanisms are totally out of whack, in my point of view.
you know why that is? Because people allow it.
Yeah.
If you just told them to suck it the hell up and get on with it, they would. You're making weaker and weaker people because you're not forcing them to deal with their issue and then move on. It's nuts.
No, I blame millennials, Tim.
Everyone says that. I find that funny, though, because I've had this conversation with people. I actually had Duncan the other day. This older guy comes in. I think he was probably a boomer generation. And I agree with everything he says. He's like, yeah, I'm forgetting. I was like, yeah, well, the reason Duncan here is probably not as fast as it used to be because they only literally had one guy working. This is in the Sunapee one. And he's like, yeah, my kids get, they got old enough to get out of the house and like kick their ass out. Like, no, you're going to go get a job. You're going to. And he totally, I agreed with everything he was saying. And I told him, I was like, well, and I have this conversation with my friend Linda all the time. Like, and she agrees, like, millennials that are born in the 80s are completely different than millennials, but like born in the 90s.
Yeah.
We're more like that Gen X. But it also depends on how you're brought up because some of my kids are very much that mentality of, no, gonna go work or whatever. And my kids are obviously Generation X. So there's obviously some exceptions to every rule.
They're millennials.
My kids are? When X start?
You mean Z?
Z, I'm sorry.
Oh, Z started
I'm sorry.
in 97?
Yeah, so all my kids are Generation Z.
Okay.
Which
That makes sense. Well, you said X.
Sorry, yeah, sorry. It gets worse and worse as you go. But obviously, there's exceptions to the rules. Depending how you were raised, depends how your kids usually act.
it's an overarching.
The problem is the numbers are shrinking so much that. Can you imagine? Like, and I think about this all the time. Like, if we get to a point where my kids' generation's in charge of things, I'm like, but
they're about to be. I read an article that it basically blamed millennials and Gen Z, and it was like Gen X still just trying to get blamed for something, because like they left out Gen X. Because I think the Gen X generation is more of a let's hurry up, get things done. I don't really care, whatever. Like there's no like millennials need personal praise, like from my experience, like they need constant you're the best, you're doing great, whereas like Gen X is more like, what do you need me to do? All right, can I leave when I'm done? And I'm out. Like they don't need flowery bullshit said to them. It's just like, all right, let's execute and go home with our lives. Whereas millennials and Gen Z is kind of like a split between like a Gen X and a millennial. Like they kind of have the best and the worst of both generations from what I've read, and it's all speculation and
what do you think about it?
Generalizations. There's always exceptions to the rule.
But we're at the point where it's time for millennial generation to take over and do stuff. But you still have boomers and the silent generation running our country.
Yeah, there's
like botting silent generation.
There's 19 members of Congress, the Senate, the House, that are over 80.
Yeah,
19.
Right.
So they don't really relate.
No, they don't. When they,
I don't think that they listen to their constituents either, or the constituents quit calling because they weren't being listened to.
Because they live in a third world cesspool.
I told
California.
you that I've mentioned on the show before. I called in March of 2020 to either Hassan or Shaheen's town hall about COVID, and it was totally, from my perspective, felt like it was a setup. There was no natural questions from my point of view because the questions were ridiculous. We know that the virus is going to make a comeback in the fall, and what are you going to do to protect me when I go vote? Like, it was like a total setup in March of 2020. It's like, so everybody's starting to realize that you've overcorrected for this thing going on, and now this person just magically calls up and wants to make sure that everybody's locked down for voting in the fall because COVID's going to make a comeback. Like, this random citizen knew this. and asked it in such a manner to totally set up a response that justifies masking and lockdowns to return before the election. To me, that was just, if it wasn't a setup, I mean, how lucky the Democrat senator get having somebody who supported their whole idea of let's do ballots or mail-in and absentee ballots.
And you have idiots already starting to do that again. I was in Shaw's yesterday, and I saw this one lady, and she's wearing a mask, and I looked, and I'm like, you could tell it. She probably had cancer or something. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm not going to judge you at all, obviously, for wearing a mask, because it was always that way before COVID. Like, if you had a compromised immune system where a common cold could potentially kill you,
You wore a mask.
you wore a mask because
protect
that was,
yourself.
Yeah. And then this woman saw another lady that was in there, and they obviously knew each other because they said hi or whatever. And this woman was wearing a mask, and she didn't seem to have any sort of issues whatsoever. It was like it was something homemade freaking cloth bullshit mask, and I'm like, and I see it more and more, and I'm like, you guys are fucking stupid. You really are. I don't even care anymore.
Well,
like, if
my whole point is, I don't care. Like, you want to wear it, that's fine. Don't look at me or ask me, because I'll chuckle at you, maybe.
You do you, boo. But
like, that's the whole beauty of America, right? Is we all have our individual freedoms, and I'm not giving mine up. Like, you go to the case of New Mexico, I might be jumping there early.
that's all right.
But that's a legal order that she gave for Albuquerque, and they are rightfully protesting, and all the right people in I think it's Albuquerque said, yeah, we're not even going to prosecute it. It's an illegal, unconstitutional. So now they should go after the governor, though. And for a case like this, where it's very obvious that they're taking away your constitutional rights, so now they're doing it where it's obvious. But with the whole COVID process, to me, they were taking away our rights, and people were allowing it under the guise of safety and being scared. They pumped fear into everybody, and it's okay to be scared whenever they're putting that much to try to scare you. That was the whole point, is to try to get you in fear. And you just look at John Stark, man. He was sick, and he gave his live free or die toast via courier because he was sick and he didn't want to get everybody else compromised, and he didn't have the energy, so he avoided the dinner. But yet we still know who John Stark is in New Hampshire because he said live free or die as part of his toast that was given by courier, because he made a common sense decision, which was, I'm sick, I don't want to get other people sick, I'm not going to go. Very simple.
So if you haven't heard, the New Mexican governor suspended the Second Amendment for 30 days under some health emergency, BS that she thinks she can do. And I would hope today, Monday, that her Senate and House or whatever would be meeting and
to impeach her
immediately and having her removed.
Because if you listen to, so I watched the interview where she was, so number one, unfortunately, there were a police officer, one or two, like right next to her, letting her spout these illegal dictates to and like they didn't even stand up. A actual journalist did, though, and he asked her basically, well, why are you doing this under this or whatever? And she's like, well, we got to show the family that we care, so we're going to eliminate however many thousands of people's rights
To protect themselves,
to make a family feel better, who unfortunately lost a child. I totally understand it's a tragedy and it should never happen. And then the journalist said, well, do you think the criminals are going to obey your unconstitutional order? And then the governor goes, no. So then what's the point? Because you want to stop criminals, right? So then the law-abiding people are like, all right, whatever, I won't carry my gun. I mean, they're not going to do that. But like if they were to. So I look at it as a very simple, you can flip it over back to the COVID mandates that are not laws. They're not enforceable unless you fall to the will of the people who are sitting there forcing you to do this, because they can't really do it legally.
right?
Because almost everything has been struck down by the courts because they're like, yeah, this is illegal. Yeah, you can't do this. You can't make somebody do this.
Oh, it's at the point now where they just was it Fifth Circuit Court was coming after Biden administration, the CDC, the FDA, something else, because they violated everyone's rights.
Yeah, because they're giving out medical advice and they're not medical providers.
But they were
Something like that.
they were using Facebook and whatever to squash your free speech.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah.
So they were using that. So they were violating your First Amendment rights, everyone's rights, which they had no authority to do. And now they've got a court.
It's called fascism in the old sense. When when the government uses corporations to do their illegal bidding, that's the classic definition of fascism. People have tried to redo it and say that it's all about the Nazis and that's fascism. Yeah, it was, but it's also fascism can exist right here in the United States of America when the government has businesses do their illegal bidding, like Visa or Discover, whoever it is, tracking your gun purchases so that they can have a register, or they can not allow you to purchase it. How about that? How about debit cards not being allowed to use where you want to use them? Oh, we don't agree. You can't use that. You can't buy
But the
things
fix should
from
be
there.
just, okay, fine. I'm not going to buy your shit no more. I don't need
No,
your
I'm
credit
not.
card.
Yeah, well, that's what people should do, but
That's
not
what they
everybody
need to
does.
do.
Yeah, but nobody does it. Everybody's like, it'll take away too much convenience. Everybody wants convenience, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you got to work. Sometimes you got to do a little extra. I know I'm a procrastinator. I like to take my time. I don't like anybody telling me what to do on anything other than the constituents. Whenever I'm in my role, I listen. But the grand scheme of things, somebody who doesn't know anything about me or my property is not going to come in here and tell me what I can or can't do with my property, especially whenever they live in a trashy city where everybody's allowed to defecate on the streets and they don't take care of their homeless.
I was watching this video the other day of Philadelphia.
And they're going to come and tell me how to live? No, go clean up yourself, buddy.
Well, there was this video of Philadelphia, and there's like, dude, I don't know what drugs these people are on in this, this neighborhood or whatever. Not all the people in Philadelphia, because I know a bunch of people live in Philadelphia, but like, they were like on zombie meds or something.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's
I'm
a
like-
new medicine that
Yeah, and I'm like,
they literally look like they're zombies just roaming around, unable to
yeah,
keep their balance for the most part.
yeah, they were like laying down and like. So here, I'm not gonna put the meme up, but I want to say it because it's too much pain in the ass. Go back after him. But it's strange that Democrats know how to save the planet yet can't clean up the crap off their streets of the cities they run.
Yeah, it fits perfectly with what I just said. Don't come and try to tell me what I need to do.
Another one. Remember when Americans exterminated evil instead of tolerating it, and soldiers holding a Nazi flag because they just want to battle or whatever? And well, no, we don't do that anymore, do we? In America, like, which kind of ties back into this whole 9/11 thing, where if you were alive then and you were, I would say at least, I was 18, so somewhere in that area, like you had a. If you're a kid, then it's so different. But like, I remember how it felt that day. I remember what it felt to be an American. I remember what it felt to not know what was happening next or what was even going on. But I also knew that day, like, what it felt to be an American, how we all came together. And I'm like, you will never defeat America. You won't. You could attack us and attack us and attack us. We will always stand together, whether we agree with things or not. And we will friggin' kill you. We will take and wipe you off the face of the earth. But now,
But we didn't even do that. We
No, we didn't
prolonged
even-
it for 20 years because it's good money for people, I'm sure. Because let's be real. If the U.S. military wanted to go and defeat a country, and we could.
look at drug cartels.
I mean, we could easily take those out.
Yeah.
If we wanted to.
Well, I heard this thing the other day, and I don't know if it's true, and maybe I'll look into it
And
more.
when I say easily, I'm saying, that's
pretty freaking easily, though.
it's not easy, but it's easy for our military is pretty freaking awesome.
They were anyways.
They were.
So anyways, supposedly Venezuela is emptying out their jails and sending them to the Mexican border of the United States.
I wonder if that's true. There's probably some truth to it. I mean, if they're letting everybody in, why wouldn't you get rid of your?
Imagine that, the worst
Bad
people you have
citizens.
that are locked up in prison, and we just send them here, and then they're going to be free in our streets. There's the other thing too.
Yeah,
where
because not only will they be free, but they'll be arrested and then they'll be free again. Like even though
some of these Democratic mayors that are getting flooded with people, the ones that wanted to be sanctuary cities, said that we need to start putting tracking devices on them and make sure they can't leave Texas. Wait, I thought you were a sanctuary city. You care so much, you want to, like, everyone should have these people.
Yeah, that's all
Right.
gaslighting.
Yeah.
This is why I don't trust politicians from either party, is because they're not representing me and you. They're representing whoever donated the most money to them. Let's just be honest.
Right. I was thinking about it. I texted you yesterday, I think it was, and I was like, so over the weekend, I don't know if we're coming back from somewhere. It was just like, it hit me, I guess. I don't know. But I'm like, think about it. For instance, and this is a good way to kind of make it so people understand it more, I guess, is, so I was sitting there, I'm like, wait a minute. We elect these people, we send them to Washington to represent us. And it's because I heard that, at the G20 summit or some bullshit that Biden was at, that he basically had to walk off because he's like, all right, well, I listened to my staff. Hey, it's pathetic. But he's talking about some third world country and trying to make them a richer country. And I'm like, so that jackass is there, and many presidents have done it prior to, and Trump probably was one of them too. But go to other countries and like, yeah, United States, we're going to help you become a better country. At what point have you been asked, have I been asked, have any of our listeners been asked, anyone out there been asked, would it be okay if we took your tax dollars as you get up and go to work Monday morning and you pay, 28% of your pay comes right out immediately when you get your check at the end of the week. Did you ever give consent to our senators or congressmen and women, our president, to send our money to other people that we worked for while our own country falls apart? Did you ever give consent for that? Because I know I didn't give consent for that.
Well, that's the rub, Tim. It's been like this for a long time.
Yeah.
And
we just let it happen. No, it's time to start getting some wood together and a couple strong pieces of rope.
I don't even know if it's that. Like, that might be the punishment for those who have betrayed us, right? So at the end of the day, it's a matter of what you know and what you don't know. So somebody got elected 2 years ago. They're trying to do the right thing, whatever, and then
Sure.
I would suspect that they get beaten down and they figure out the way the game works. Like, look at, was it Marjorie Taylor Greene? She had all kinds of things, but she's like, I don't know, she defends McCarthy, and the dude hasn't kept like one promise. Like,
She fights in 1 minute.
that's how come that the Republicans are just as morally corrupt as the Democrats. You might like some of their ideas, and I do too. I like ideas from both sides because they make sense, but they don't act on it. They tell you, oh, we're going to do this, and then we're going to come back in 6 years, or, oh, we're going to temporarily tax you for support the war, and 100 years later, we're still paying income tax that is basically stolen and laundered back to them in some form or fashion.
Yeah, look
And
at
then even if it's
Ukraine.
not laundered, it could just be like, oh, we're going to give USAID all this money, which that's all CIA bullshit, to go teach everybody how to demoralize their country and try to import our beliefs and values on others when we're all different cultures. And that's the problem, is they don't want us to have a culture, Tim. They say that there's no American culture, and that's why when you see things on TV, you're like, what the hell is this? Like, this isn't any, but then they propagate it like that's normal, and it's not normal. And you don't have to accept it, and you don't have to watch it. You can turn off your TV. What you got to do is call up your senators and congressmen and women and say, y'all no longer represent us, and if I had my way, you would be in jail.
Yeah.
That's the safest way to say it, because they should be in jail at the minimum.
Well, let's put all this in perspective.
Safely, we can say that they should be in jail.
We got to make sure we're
Most of them.
hypothetically saying this, because me mentioning this, people could get all like, did you hear this? So we're both on the Newport School Board, right? You're the chair. So if I go to the meeting, which is a special meeting tonight, so if I go to the meeting and say, you know what, Claremont's really struggling with their school district, I propose that we send them $1 million from the Newport taxpayers to Claremont because they're struggling. And then we we pass it and we send the money over there. That would piss you off. That would piss off everyone in Newport. There'd probably be one or two people that'd be like, well, it makes sense. And I'm like, no, you're a dumbass and you shouldn't even be freaking able to vote. But anyways, people would be pissed. They'd want to hang us. That happens to you every single day of your life when they send your money. Except instead of going to Claremont, which is the next town, which is still in your state, which is in your country. No, we send it to Ukraine. We send it to Africa. Well, probably very little Africa. We send it to China. We actually give China money
NATO,
to support them.
The World Health Organization.
Everything. Everything you can imagine. Yet you have people in Philadelphia on some fucked up drug walking around like zombies. California, I mean, you have drug addicts just setting up tents on cities, and then if you say anything against it, then you're a bad person. Like, what the fuck is happening?
I want to know what drugs are the people on that think that you're a criminal for pointing out other people's criminal activities or degeneracy or whatever else. Like, what programming, what school, what parents did they have that taught them that the stuff? Because it's un-American. We're supposed to be like the best. We're supposed to strive to always be better, right. Do all these certain things, apple pie, baseball, grandma, all this good stuff. And then it's like, no, you're a racist for thinking that you need to wake up and be at work at 7 a.m.
No, because
like I have time blindness. Like that's a made up thing or whatever, but I am not in a rush to do anything. But when I had a job, I was at least 5 minutes early, 98 to 99.9% of the time. I'm only putting the 98 in there in case there's somebody watching. It's like, well, actually, you were late to 6 meetings. but you know what I'm saying? Like, it just frustrates the hell out of me. Like, what are you people?
Right now, it comes out, boom.
And most of our listeners are not these people, by the way.
No.
Watchers. Like, we know that we're not talking
right.
to most of y'all.
But at the same time, right now, if someone come up to me and said, Tim, we have kids in Newport that are not eating. And I'd pick my phone up and I'd send a few text messages out to people I know. And by the end of the day, we would have this fixed.
That's the way. So that's the way our government functions, by the way, is on the charity of others. Like you have the churches that do a lot of what governments try to force, and so then you have the churches doing it, but then the government's like, oh, we're going to take over this.
Completely screw that up.
And the government can't do anything well. Just think about it. You have good employees and you have all the way down to the god-awful worst employees, and it's hard to fire somebody once they start working for the government. Trump tried to do it. I want to say even Bush, too, tried to do it, like tried to make it to where you could fire people for incompetencies, and you can't do it in the government. It's hard. It takes like 3 years. And then when you do it, people accuse you of, anything they can because you actually are able to get someone fired. So now you're the bad guy, even though everybody complained about that employee for 3 years. Yeah. And then once they're gone, it's like, well, you're an asshole.
But have you noticed, though, that's how it works now in our country? It's, we have issues, then me and you need to get together with our neighbors and stuff and figure out how to fix it, and do this, do that, whatever. Yet all that money that you get robbed out of every week out of your paycheck, the government takes, and then, occasionally they'll pave a road or something.
Well, how about you don't need to look any further than the $700 one-time payment to Maui residents when you have illegals getting $3,000 worth of benefits a month on top of like luxury hotel rooms. They don't have to be vaccinated to come in. They don't have to wear a mask. So anybody who thinks that the whole vaccination mask thing is a valid thing, all you have to do is say, no, it's not. They left the border open and they weren't checking to see if people, because if this were really that bad, they would do that. Like, I don't understand how people can't follow logic and reason. If it was so bad, they would stop, the borders would be shut down and no one would be able to come in unless we knew that they weren't going to infect everyone. Because this isn't happening, you know that it's not as bad as what they're trying to make you think it is. So stop being afraid.
You see this new thing?
I mean, to me, that's a very, I'm sure there's somebody who studied logic and reason and can find a flaw in that. But to me, the logic is you wouldn't allow people into your country to spread disease if it was that bad. And you wouldn't be paying them and putting them in luxury hotels and putting them right in the heart of the city. Unless they are very, contagious, and you want to spread it. So, there's like two options
It's
there.
only one or another. They're both bad either way.
But they're both bad. So
it's either all fake or you're trying to spread it.
yeah,
So
it's like so.
So
Either way, shut the border down.
in Texas they put this like floating.
Yeah, like the old chain from
Yeah.
that used to be across the Hudson.
The Biden administration sued them to have that removed. Now, why would the Biden administration, President of the United States, who is sworn to protect and defend the United States and against enemies, foreign, domestic, uphold the Constitution, why would they sue a state like Texas that's trying to keep illegals out of our country?
Because they're gaslighting you. Because they'll say, that's an unsafe way of doing it. I'm in charge of the border. You don't even have the authority to do that. So what they'll do is they'll say you don't have the authority and you're going to kill people and people are going to die because of your mistake. And it's like, unfortunately, people are going to die either way because there are criminals allegedly being let in. And sometimes those criminals commit crimes that lead to death. Or people who decide not to come in here legally die. And that's a consequence. That's a risk that they're willing to take.
Yeah, they're not going to die in the United States. They're going to die in Mexico. And that might be tragic.
They'll die on the Rio Grande River halfway in between.
Yeah.
International waters.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, you don't want anybody to die. Like, I don't want anybody sitting here thinking, I don't want anybody to die. But it's also, you deter them from coming over illegally so that they do it legally so that we preserve our way of life. Because they come from different cultures. And we actually have our own American culture that they try to act like we don't.
Think about it, though. Like, we say, oh,
Our United States culture.
we can't stop these people coming over. If you're the president of the United States, you call Mexico right now and say, hey, you have two options. You stop these people from coming over, or I'm going to flatten your country.
Yeah, but they know that we won't do that because we would pretend that we're going to flatten our country, and
That's
then
true.
we'll go in there for like 20 or 30 years and milk your 28% out of your paycheck while they pretend. And meanwhile, the government just takes over the drug trade, allegedly.
They still
The CIA allegedly.
think about it. Every freaking show you ever watch, every movie you ever watch, it's always been about the CIA and the government picks a cartel. Fast and Furious. Those guns. Like, but are you
Not the movie.
really? No, yeah, not the movie. Are you really going to sit there and be like, that doesn't happen?
It does happen. There's
Are you
proof of it out there.
kidding me? Like,
Hey, I learned everything I needed to know from Lethal Weapon. Did you ever watch that?
I love we.
Well, he comes back from the war, and it's all ex-soldiers that are leading the drug trade, and they're all still connected.
Yeah, working for companies like,
There's about 3 or 4 of them that own pretty much everything, by the way.
Yeah.
It's probably own your mortgage, my mortgage, whatever. I'll be out of here soon. I'll look up Morris. All right, let's go ahead.
Anyways, we'll talk about a few local things. We're kind of doing the show backwards today.
Yeah, well,
We've been pretty frustrated though, and I know we've been all over the place, but it's because we didn't do a show last week. Just I don't know, the number of people, views on the show. I was like, you know what? Maybe no one does want to watch a show. Which is fine if no one wants to watch a show because
hey, it's
whatever.
cathartic. You get to.
Yeah, but at the same time, then I'll put something on Facebook, and I'm like, well, that's weird because the views on Facebook have been like, 300, and we don't ever get past like 80 something on YouTube. And then I think sometimes the things, depending on what we talk about, I've seen it. We've seen it together. We've literally watched this. It's not conspiracy, some bullshit. We've literally like, Steve, didn't our last show have 82 views? Yeah. How come we only have 71 views now, or whatever? And they're like, that's weird.
I think it was more dramatic than that. It was
Yeah.
like, it didn't go. It wasn't like a drop of 11. It was like a drop of like 60 for 3 or 4 days, which it could be a many different things, but then it's like, well, you did say this, you did say that. And we know that they have AI that listens, because one more reason for anybody, and I know most of our viewers don't play video games, but Call of Duty is now monitoring chat with AI to make sure that if you say anything that they don't like that you say, they can ban you from playing their game.
And you still play it.
No, well, yeah, but no.
Yes, you
I
do.
have the old version. I won't put any more money in. I won't get the next version. Like, I'm totally trying to let my friend, because my friends and I have been doing this for like 20 years. Basically, that's our way of staying in contact. The guys I grew up with, we play on like Friday nights. That shows you how which losers we are, right? Our Friday nights are spent drinking beer, playing video games. But anyway, so they have AI to monitor you, and it says we are monitoring your chat to make sure that you stay within our community guidelines. I will tell you, there are some bad things that are said in online gaming, especially like 20 years ago when it first started. I couldn't believe the way that people talk. Like, I didn't realize that people were that uncouth, if you will. But that doesn't. So all you have to do though is hit block and mute that person.
Yeah.
Like, there's a system built in to where you can be like, I don't want to listen to this jackass's racist shit or whatever. Then you hit block. And you don't have to ever hear them again. And then after that game, you can block to where you never play with them again. It's that simple. But now they're going to like, oh, you said something because, we all have words that we use that other people may not like. Let's just be frank about it. Like, there are words that people use that other people will be offended by. But your social group may not be offended by words. But now the AI is going to be offended, and they're going to ban you. And it's like, why would anybody even buy the next version of this? Why would anybody pay for anything to do with this video game? Because now they are fascist, working on behalf of the government, monitoring your speech.
Right, which they're violating your First Amendment rights, which you have a right to say anything you want, whether it's absurd or not,
right?
Whether it's homophobic, racial, whatever. You can say anything you want. You have a right to be a jackass if you want and say whatever the hell you want. Doesn't matter what you say. You can say anything as long as it's not threatening.
Right.
Direct threats, too, not like, because the threshold for the legal thing on there is like, I'm going to take that to do that. You could say, I'm going to just do this, and it still isn't criminal threat. Like, so, but then you're going to spend all the money on a game, and then they're going to tell you what.
Could you imagine, like, you're using, because also AI is messed up, right? But so you use a word that it doesn't recognize or whatever, but it flags it because it sounds like another word, and then you're kicked off a game that you paid money for, that you're supposed to allegedly own.
Right.
You don't own it anymore. I'm sure that's probably snuck
anymore.
in there. It's like you have the digital rights to use, which is BS. That's why I like hard media.
Has anybody ever watched Terminator?
Well, I mean, everybody has a short memory, Tim. People can't even remember what they were mad about 8 months ago, much less.
I mean, you have professionals that are way smarter than us on
30 years ago.
Computers and that worked at Google and whatever. And they're like, AI is a serious threat to the country. Crickets. Do, 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 do.
Yeah.
I don't like.
Welcome to the 6th iteration of The Matrix.
Like,
this is the rub.
Someone runs in right now and says, the garage is on fire. Me and you're like, nah, I don't see it. We'll just keep doing the show. No, me and you're going to get up and get the hell out of here immediately. Right. I don't care who it is that comes in and says it. But we just keep doing this in this country. Like, the house is on fire, but we'll sit in the living room and chill out until,
Well, see, that's the thing about our human existence, right? So, you shouldn't drink more than a couple of drinks every night, but there are a lot of people that have more than 1 to 3 drinks, depending on their height and size.
You know why? Because they're wide awake to the shit that we keep talking about, and they can't deal with it.
So that's their coping mechanism? Maybe. But, my point is that we do things that we know we shouldn't do.
Right.
And it's like, it's going to be to our detriment if people don't, like, wake up.
You know what I won't be doing anymore, which pisses me off because I like it, but is Hellman's mayonnaise
I tried to tell you about that
Says
like
it
2 years
literally
ago.
right on it. Says ingredients include bioengineered ingredients included.
See, my buddy John Paul will say that's just because all soy is bioengineered at this point, like soy products, because it's all GMO or whatever. But I'm like, I saw that 2 years ago, and I was like, do not ever bring Hellman's in this house. And I think there might be a bottle in there, but I use butter or mustard or nothing, and I hate mustard.
Yeah, I don't like mustard really either, but I'm picking up bottles. Like I was at Singleton's over in Cavendish the other day because we were in Ludlow doing a job, and they have really good sandwiches and stuff. They Boar's Head meat, and
That's the place we went to?
yeah,
Yeah, I like that place.
yeah. So I was looking through some barbecue sauces because whenever I see spices or barbecue sauces, I'm always going through because I do a lot of like smoking or cooking, whatever, and so. And I find myself doing it. I'm looking through the ingredients because I want to know what's in the crap now because I'm done. I'm not going to keep. Now, I know, and I'm being a hypocrite, like, oh, but you'll drink a Mountain Dew. Yes, occasionally I drink a Mountain Dew.
That's the rub of our existence.
Right.
You know that you shouldn't have the
Right.
Mountain Dew, but you're like, I want it.
But I'm trying to get better with other things, like with things to be like, okay, well, like eggs we get from our chickens, so we're good there. But what else calling me? No one in Washington, I know. So,
Is that DC calling you?
oh shit. On that note,
They found us. What's that from?
I love you, Joe Biden. It's okay.
They found us. Is that War Games? I can't remember.
I don't know, but like, why can't you just make?
No, Back to the Future. They found us. I don't know how, but they found us whenever he's recording him.
Oh, yeah. So I'm trying to find stuff that's like not genetically modified and mutated and
Go out to my garden, Timothy.
right. Well, we had the other day, and I asked where it came from, and she's like, "Oh, Tommy got that on like 12A at some farm thing," because I was like, "Oh," because I thought it was yours, which I don't know what happened to yours. It either got cut up and put into something, or anyways, it was zucchini. It was so good. It just tastes so different than like when you go to the
What
store.
kind of zucchini? Just regular green?
Yeah, regular green zucchini.
I got like 4 types in there if you need to take some home.
I have to take some.
I'm going to have to make some zucchini
You
bread.
got some corn on the cob too. It's so good.
My corn is 5 inches maybe.
Yeah.
And they're starting to die. Like they were looking like it's about ready to start picking it, which I'm going to do before the bear comes.
Although
My scarecrow seems to be working.
Emilio has a bear tag and doesn't really know how to hunt bear.
Oh, really?
There you go.
Move the camera over. I need to get one of those cameras that do they have them where it'll give you an alert if it picks up motion? Yeah, I need to get one of those.
Yeah.
I got to get rid of my ring.
But if you eat foods like fresh like that, like go to a garden or like in a farm stand and you get these fresh vegetables and you eat them, or if you eat my meat that came from my animals versus from, the store, especially I notice it mostly more with beef. So if you have a cheeseburger, say, with my animal meat, you feel fuller quicker than if you do it with a store one.
That's your own,
My own, yes.
your own experience.
Yes.
I will say that just eating fresh fruits and vegetables and meat that you know where it comes from. Like
Fresh, not from the store, though.
I'm
like
suspect of like chicken from any store now. Like
Oh.
I've seen, like they ruined me with all, I used to call it Facebook videos, but I don't have Facebook, so whatever, YouTube shorts with all these people like tearing which I knew with the whole, with rib meat, whatever, is like basically processed chicken to stick to a piece of, I don't know, plastic or whatever, rib meat.
Think about it. Like, when's the last time you got chicken from a store?
Like what chicken has a rib that long?
What chicken has a nugget or chicken fingers?
I don't know. It's all disgusting. We've all been poisoned slowly. I'm convinced that you went from lead, asbestos. Now we have plastics. I think I saw a meme about that, but I've been saying that for a while. That I've been replacing plastic with glass in the house. Like I don't even hardly. I have like a plastic cup that was my pawpaw's that he drank tea out of, and even now I'll grab it because it'll remind me of my grandfather, and I'm like, nah, I'm gonna go with the glass. So I have it more just to remind me of him than to drink out of, because
Dude,
it's not natural. Like glass and ceramics worked for thousands of years before.
Yeah.
I don't trust plastics.
No, I don't know. All right, we're going to talk about a few positive things real quick and then wrap the show up. So,
We did invert the show. We're supposed to do
We
positive
did? I
first
know.
and then negative.
yeah, most people are already like, click to the next one. Oh, well. So, Saturday went to Mascoma, and Newport Tigers played, the football team played Mascoma and beat them to 41-0. Kyle Ashley had a really good game. Aaron Fellows had a really good game. 1 or 2 interceptions. He was a quarterback too. They played really well. Mascoma's one of those teams that you don't know what you're gonna get. Sometimes they're pretty good, and other times pretty good, and other times they're not great. They play Winnisquam this coming Saturday at home. Will be their first home game. I think Winnisquam's a little better team. Pretty much the only teams we faced this year with any challenge to it, I think, was Somersworth, obviously, which is won the championship the last 2 years. And then Bishop Brady last year was considerably better than the year before, which is funny because when I was in school, which I mean is 20 years ago, but Bishop Brady was like lights out. You played Bishop Brady and you got your ass beat. Like you could be a good football team and you go play Bishop Brady, and it was very, very tough. But it's, things change, and Bishop Brady has a kicker that I was telling you about before the show. I was like, that kid can kick. I seen him at the 50-yard line kicking field goals. It was pretty impressive. But no, they had a great game. One thing that I noticed is I sat in the sun the whole time, and Andrea and the baby went over in the shade, but I couldn't see that well there. So now I'm going to say here, the sun is so hot now, like it's not natural, which we don't want to get. I don't want to get back into that, but I'm just sitting there and I'm literally burning, and I'm like, the closer you get to the equator, the more that happens. And I feel like it's natural, right? The light hits the equator more or whatever. But in New Hampshire, if it's 100 degrees out and it's no clouds, and but anyone out there else besides me noticed, like in the last few years, the sun is way hotter. Like you can't even go in the sun without like, whoa, I shouldn't even be in the sun. It's so hot. But that was just my observation.
Well, Tim, the sun is hot.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I got
fly to it.
Relative to a couple of years ago, it does feel like the UV intensity has increased, because we had talked about that before.
Well, we talk about it a lot with your garden because I've seen it work and I've done it.
Well, it's weird because my peppers, granted they're container peppers, like they do better in a pot, but they've been on the patio and they have 15, 20 peppers on them. My peppers that have been out in the garden since May 28th or whatever, and they were, 12-inch seedlings, whatever, whenever I planted them. Some of them have barely even produced. They're just now starting to...
Too much water, not enough sun. And then when the sun comes out, it bakes them. If you put a UV blanket over those, I'm telling you, you'll see a huge...
Even my tomatoes, normally I'm on my second crop of, right at this point in time, I'm letting, all the everything just grow and try to get as many tomatoes as I can. And right now I still have I've only picked 8 tomatoes.
Yeah, I feel bad for you. Like, your garden this year is bigger than it was last year, space-wise, yet it looks horrible. Like, not like work, but...
Like, my tomatoes aren't 6 feet tall like they normally are.
No. Normally you couldn't take 2 steps without insane amount of tomatoes. But it's too wet, and then when the sun comes out, it's so
My sunflowers
strong.
are gigantic. They're like 15 feet tall. And
he's not exaggerating. They're huge. But it's funny because I didn't, this year I couldn't do a garden, just time. I wasn't able to set it up and whatever. So we have a little raised bed out in front, and we've actually got a lot of jalapenos out of it. My mini eggplant, which is a complete waste of, I'll never buy one again. It produced lots of little eggplants, but little, I don't know how I'm going to do that. But my regular eggplant now actually has a decent sized one on it.
Nice.
And we got a few tomatoes and stuff like that, but I'm telling you.
Yeah, see, so my eggplant, I have the little finger ones too. I have 4 or 5 of those. There's 2 now, that only 2 growing. And granted, yours were a little bit ahead of mine, but
Man, I bet
Yours
there's
produced.
15 on
Yeah,
that
you
thing.
had a lot.
Crazy amount.
And like my plants look great. Don't get me wrong. Like
Right.
they're not like scraggly looking. My tomatoes are scraggly
Right.
looking, but
But it's funny because the best things that have produced this year is a pumpkin right next to my animal pen, and I've got pumpkins out there. Another pumpkin that was in the shit pile way out back that I didn't plant. That the plant itself looks beautiful. The pumpkins are they're getting there, but and then what else is it? I didn't like. There's different things that move around. I didn't plant. It was kind of fun.
that's nice though.
Yeah, sunflower seeds coming out of the bird feeder produced probably maybe even like 15
Yeah, you
sunflowers. They got up about 4 feet, but we didn't plant them. It was pretty
It looks
neat.
nice, though.
It does. It was pretty cool. But yeah, it's crazy. It's been a weird year though for that, and I feel bad though because you put a lot of time and effort
I
into
did.
it.
I was like so excited.
Yes.
Like I had the tomatoes properly spaced because I wanted everything to
Right.
get enough airflow, and then they didn't even bush up.
If you just plant that inside of a building, you've been all right.
Yeah, we'll keep trying.
So tonight,
Did get a lot of zucchini though.
that's good. Not to, yeah. So school board meeting tonight. There's a special school board meeting at 5. It's a public hearing because the state gave us extra money, and in order for us to keep the money, we have to get permission from the townspeople. Unlike the town, as in the town of Newport, can keep whatever without the people's permission. I don't know. But anyways, there's that tonight. And then this Thursdays are just a regular normal school board meeting, which, just so you're aware, I think some people are going to show up not happy about their kids' schedules that are lacking classes.
Well,
So hopefully,
on a
Donna's-
personal note, I've addressed it with.
You have, and I said this too on Facebook, and so hopefully it's been addressed to a satisfactory level. Because if not, we're going to hear about it, which we should, and bring it on. Yeah, that's what I got for. I know the varsity soccer. The girls went to Interlakes Friday, and it was a tie, 1-1. Lydia said that they literally blew the whistle and the other team scored. She's like, they scored after the whistle, one of those really close things, but because of maybe thunder or something, they call the game, whatever. So unfortunately for the girls, they would have won that game. And then we watched them last week on, I remember Wednesday maybe. They lost to Mascoma, but I guess they had 2 scores before we got there, so it must have been pretty early in the game. And then they lost 2-4, but it's a pretty.
Yeah,
good
they
game.
should have beat that team.
They should have, but I guess a Thursday, which sucks because we have a school board meeting, but they're playing, depending on weather, of course, but they're playing Claremont to the Lights, I believe Lydia said.
Oh, nice.
So maybe if our meeting ends early, which that never seems to happen, but because that'd be pretty cool to watch under the lights. But yeah,
We can try to keep these meetings flowing smoother.
yeah, and then we go to non-public, and that freaking meeting never ends.
Chairman could take control.
If someone there
Shut that
could
all
just speed that up,
up. Interesting.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty much our show in a nutshell. 52, 3 minutes or so. Not too bad.
If you've made it this far, appreciate it.
Yeah, congratulations. You're one of the few. No, I think our sponsors, Beard Sewer and Drain, Sunshine Realty, Twin State Paving. If you still want to get your driveway paved, you still have some time, but you're going to want to really get your butt moving because that's wrapping up soon. I'm sure Arthur and Jessica are very much eagerly waiting for the end of the year. At this point, it gets a little hectic, and they're usually, especially this year with all the rain, it's been a tough year, I bet. But Sunshine Realty, I just saw that Jenna Sherman, who her mom, I don't know if her mom owns it or she works for it, but Jenna just started working for Sunshine Realty,
nice.
and which I thought was pretty cool. I've known her for a while. She used to work at the bank and stuff. So, yeah, Beard Sewer and Drain issues. Let us know. Yeah. So let's remember today's 9/11. Let's not forget this day.
Yeah. Don't give up your freedoms under the guise of safety. remember those that we lost?
Yeah. I have 343 firefighters, and I believe it was 17 police officers. And those, of course, the ones that died that day, not considering the ones that have now
Like gotten health issues.
Yeah.
I mean, really, at the end of the day, I know I put a little negative spin earlier, but like, I'm with you. We need to remember the triumph of the American people coming together. Those firefighters, those police officers, other volunteers that worked at the site, that ran into the building towards danger. It just shows how awesome humankind and our American citizens are.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean,
you know, other countries, they do it too, but I'm just saying for us, I don't want somebody to think, yeah, everybody else does it. I know.
screw them. We're talking about us.
I know, but
America.
this day and age,
I know.
America, F yeah.
All right, guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time on Tim and Steve Show.
North of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that you do. 'Cause your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end. 'Cause the rich men know the rich men. Politicians look out for miners, and not just miners on an island somewhere. Lord, we got folks in the street, ain't got nothing to eat, and they